Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Now let's get straight into it. So one of the key things that I've been trying to express to y'all when it comes to this Charlie Kirk situation, which was very clear to me, a sacrifice for much larger things planned down the road for this society. But one of the main things that I've been trying to communicate is that everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. Okay. It's easy to lose sight of that when you have these different events and sacrifices and situations going on in this society. But I encourage you to not lose sight of that. Everything is spiritual, including this Charlie Kirk situation. Okay. You know you're off on the wrong track if you have the same talking points as your counterparts that are in the world, the same things that they're saying. That's how you feel about it. You can pretty much bet that you losing the mark, or you losing sight that everything is spiritual, and you're missing the bigger play at hand, which is there's always a bigger play at hand when they allow someone like this to be killed on a national level. And it's national news, international news. It's never by accident. It's never if someone got assassinated and they didn't know nothing about it or anything like that. Trust me, if they wanted to stop that Charlie Kirk assassination, so-called, they would have done so. Yeah, this man, the man that shot him was just he was just on a roof. You know, if they really wanted to stop that, all the surveillance that we have in this new surveillance age with meta glasses and cameras everywhere and satellites everywhere, trust me, they always watching. They could have stopped that if they wanted to, if that was not part of the plan. It wasn't that it wasn't part of the plan to stop them. It was more that it was part of the plan for it to go down just the way it did. And for further proof of that, let's take a look at this. I'm sure a lot of y'all have seen this, but now I want to dive a little bit more into what I mean by when I make statements like he was Charlie Kirk, he was sacrificed. Okay, now let's take a look at this film. And again, a lot of y'all have probably already seen this, but I think it's worth going into. It was very interesting when I first saw it. Okay, you have this film here. It's called Snake Eyes. It was released in 1998. All right, so that would be around 27 years ago from today, right? So it says Snake Eyes is a 1998 American mystery thriller film directed and produced by Brian De Palma. The film stars Nicolas Cage as a detective investigating a political assassination at a boxing match in Atlantic City, with supporting roles played by Gary Sinise, Carla Gugino, John Hurd, Stan Shaw, Kevin Dunn, John Fabani, and Luis Guzman. De Palma also devised a story with David Cope, who was the sole writer of the screenplay. Let's go down, though. We can go to this plot, but I think that I'm going to just go down here to this one part here that says conspiracy theory, I believe. So for some reason, when I look at this Wikipedia page on my phone, I can see exactly what I'm looking for, but here on the computer, it doesn't show for whatever reason. But it's all good. We got it here. We're going to go by this article. It says Charlie Kirk shooting, bro. Why Nicolas Cage's Snake Eyes movie is suddenly trending. Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA founder, was fatally shot while attending an event in Utah University on September 10th. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this article will give us exactly what I was looking for. And again, I know a lot of y'all have seen this, but it's worth going over to me. It says several eerie similarities between Charlie Kirk's assassination and the 1998 movie Snake Eyes have been pointed to by eagle-eyed social media users. Kirk, the Turning Point USA founder, was fatally shot when attending an event at Utah University on September 10th, 2025. Adding that, but okay. It says the 1998 movie Snake Eyes was directed by Brian De Palma. We've already gotten that. Let's get down to the so-called coincidences. It says in the film, there is a political killing at a boxing match, and the Secretary of Defense, Charles Kirkland, is the victim. So on this movie, Snake Eyes, it involves a political killing And the name of the person that was killed is Charles Kirkland. If you didn't know, Charlie Kirk, his actual first name was Charles Kirk. He was just called Charlie. So the only thing different here is this Kirkland is Kirkland and not Kirk, but pretty much the same name, right? That could just be a coincidence. It's also a political killing, but hey, that's really nothing to go too crazy about, right? Oh, I think it says the same thing here. The first similarity users found was thus the name itself, given that Charlie Kirk's full name was Charles James Kirk. Okay. Oh, and also, okay, in the film, Kirkland gets shot in the neck. And videos of Charlie Kirk's assassination also appear to show the bullet hit the side of his neck. Not only that, if I'm not mistaken, it was on the exact same side, on the right side. I believe it was on the right side. Y'all correct me, or I'm thinking about the video now. I think both of them, though, got shot on the either right or left side. I think it's left now that I'm thinking about it. But either way, on this movie, on Snake Eyes, this person, Charles Kirkland, based on the 1998 film Snake Eyes, he was killed in like manner that Charlie Kirk in real life was killed. Also shot on the side of the neck, like on the film. Now that's enough of a coincidence to make someone really pay attention, but maybe not enough for you to really just say, you know what, something kind of funny going on here. So let's keep going though. It says users also pointed to the fact that the fighter who takes the fall in Snake Eyes when Kirkland is shot is named Lincoln Tyler. Meanwhile, in Charlie Kirk's case, a 22-year-old Utah native by the name of Tyler Robinson has been arrested. The Tyler bit of the name has ex-users believing in another link. So you have someone involved with the shooting that was named Lincoln Tyler on the movie, also known as Tyler the Executioner, if I'm not mistaken. I will have to double check if his name was Tyler the Executioner, but we know we have the link with the name Tyler there. So now we got like 3 to 4 different things going on. So let's keep going though. Further, there was also claims that the fight in Snake Eyes takes place on September 10th, which is the same date as Kirk's assassination, but no official source has confirmed this. Well, unless it says here on the Wikipedia page that it was on the night of September 10th when this movie took place. Now, I have not seen the movie, so I would like to go back and see the movie before I make the claim, but that's unless someone edit this in afterwards to make the same similarity. It did take place on the same day according to this Wikipedia source. So maybe, if y'all happen to have seen this movie, you can confirm or deny it. And maybe they don't say it on the movie directly at all. And maybe this was added, but that's, if that is the case, that's a little wild, right? You have the same date that took place on the movie as the same date that Charlie Kirk in real life was so-called assassinated, right? It was September 10th. Okay. It says no official source, but it's like, I don't know if you don't take the time to make the article. If I was making an article, I would watch the movie all the way through to see if that was true or not. But anyways, that's not all. The movie also ties to Donald Trump, who Kirk strongly supported. Part of the movie was shot at the Trump Taj Mahal Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. The character Gilbert Powell is also based on Trump as per IMDb. Now you see that. You see all these different connections to this movie, Snake Eyes, to the real life Charlie Kirk assassination. Are these just a bunch of coincidences? Even if we take the things that are confirmed, like the name Tyler being used for the person connected to the movie, the shooting, which is a so-called black man. It's the same guy that played as the boxer on Harlem Nights. He's also was a boxer on here that he took a fall, essentially, like it says here on this article. So what's up with this brother in boxing? And I think Harlem Nights probably came out after this, but either way, looks like he played a boxer on both. But his name also happens to be Tyler as well, Lincoln Tyler, and then you have Tyler Robinson, and then you have the fact that Charles Kirkland was shot on the neck, just like Charlie Kirk was shot on the neck. Those things are confirmed. So even if the September 10th thing isn't true, it's also still confirmed that part of the movie was shot in one of Donald Trump's hotels, the Trump Taj Mahal Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. That's enough connections to me to not think that this is a coincidence. And that will help y'all out a lot if y'all understand that nothing in life happens as a coincidence. Okay, especially on this level. Nothing is just pure coincidence. Let's read further on to see what they say before I start giving more of an analysis of what I think is going on. Okay, so users react to Snake Eyes Charlie Kirk similarities. The similarities are hard to ignore and have elicited several reactions online. Predictive programming, how a 1998 Nicolas Cage movie scripted the death of Charlie Kirk, remarked one person. Another said, the coincidence in this movie are too many like the Charlie Kirk murder. This cannot be coincidence. Exactly. Yet another person commented, there are no coincidences. Charlie Kirk was an inside job. If we talk about inside job as in it was scripted and planned, I would say yes. There's no link between the film and Charlie Kirk's assassination. Meanwhile, Erica Kirk, Charlie's wife and the current CEO of Turning Point USA, spoke at her late husband's memorial event and said that she forgave Tyler Robinson for the alleged shooting of Kirk. Yeah, of course, trying to make more headlines by I'm just going to forgive him. I know my woman better not come on there already talking about she forgive him. But anyways, here's the point. We see this strong connection between this movie that seems quite random, right? So what does this mean? Does this mean that the real life event of Charlie Kirk's assassination was based on the movie or anything like that? Not really. When you see something like this, what this actually means is that Charlie Kirk's life was scripted. They already knew when he was going to go down. He was given this platform. Everything that happened within his life was part of a script. Okay. And it's not really about the movie. The movie is just a flex that they already had his life as part of a script. So they already had Charlie Kirk's life scripted. Because, at the time that this came out, Charlie Kirk was 5 years old or something like that. I would say around 5 years old, something like that, 5 to 6, between 4 to 6 years old, if my math is correct. So somewhere around there. All right. So at this time, his life was already scripted. They already knew that he would die at the age of 31 at Utah Valley University on September 10th. They already knew how he was going to die. Okay, and they know what they already knew what he was going to be used for. That movie again is not his real life wasn't based on the movie. The movie was made to show later on, once people picked up on this, that they already knew what was going on. But why would they do that? Because that's how Satan works. Satan likes to flex. Okay. In these certain types of situations, and those that are dealing with Satan likes to flex. Okay, just think about it like this. On the right hand side, the Most High pretty much be flexing too as well, right? Like it says in Jeremiah the 23rd chapter, where it talks about how the Most High is not going to be known anymore as the God that delivered his people out of Egypt. He would be known as the people that delivered his people out the North Country into their own land. Okay, I believe that's Jeremiah 23:7, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so you have Sodom and Gomorrah. You got, the flood, the Exodus in itself, so on and so forth. The Most High He does these things so that his fame will be known all across the land. He does supernatural things in a natural sense so that everyone on planet Earth would know that there is a God. Even atheists, they know that a God exists, whether they claim to believe in him or not. You understand? That's why all these things were done. At least one of the reasons why these things were done. Okay, you get it? So the Most High, his fame will be known across all of planet Earth. So you will have no excuse to not worship him, even of the other nations, right? Because they know he exists. This is how we know of the concept of a God, because of the different things that the Most High has done, not just in creation itself, which is already one of the truest testimonies of the Most High's existence, because you have to understand when it comes to creation, this is not just some type of occurrence that could happen just by happenstance on any level, mathematically, on any level. Creation could not have happened without a grand orchestrator. It's just impossible. No Big Bang Theory and all these different things is virtually impossible. It's mathematically impossible. And there's scientists that have even came out and attested to that. So not only that, but the different events that have taken place in the history of the world, the Most High is showing you his hand. Now, on the left-hand path, Satan does the same thing. He's all about fame too as well. Think about it like in Matthew, the 4th chapter, where Satan took Yahushua or Christ up, to the highest mountain, and he had him overlook all the kingdoms of the world and said, this will be yours if you worship me. And then Yahushua was like, man, get that junk about my face. Right. But he's all about fame. That's why in order to gain fame in this society, you have to bow the knee to Baal. You have to bow the knee to Satan, essentially. OK, so this is just a flex because they already knew that this would be discovered. Okay, they knew that the similarities would be discovered in the script. The movie was based off of Charlie Kirk, not the other way around. And I saw where I first saw this at, I saw someone comment and say, maybe the killer saw this and that's why he decided to do it. No, because he can't decide his own name. You know what I mean? So it wasn't that. All right. And hopefully that makes sense. All right. But again, I'm telling you this to show you what's really going on when these things happen is 100 layers deeper than just racism and just the obvious things that were going on, and now that I see this too, this man was probably programmed. He was probably programmed to say and do a lot of the things that he did. He probably wasn't fully under his own control, which the way that they control these people is through the CIA program known as MK Ultra, which is a confirmed program that saw a Supreme Court case that the only thing that you could deny with MK Ultra is that it's still being used and executed today, but you cannot deny its existence because that's 100% confirmed by the CIA themselves. Okay, but that's how they have these different figures come up, and this is how they control them, and this is how they make and create these different narratives. It's all leading up to much more important things down the road, not just about racism. Okay, so this dude's life was scripted. Do you understand that? He was scripted. I mean, his life was scripted. And he's now being propped up as a god to be worshipped. Okay, I hope you understand that this is not just some type of coincidence. How in the world do you have someone killed called Charlie Kirkland that got shot on the neck, a political figure in a movie that allegedly took place on the exact same day, whether it did or not, that's also connected to Trump. We know that Charlie Kirk was connected to Trump. And the movie was filmed in one of the Trump hotels. And then all on top of that, you have one of the main figures, one of the main characters also that goes by the name of Tyler, just like the alleged killer or murderer of Charlie Kirk. That's way too many coincidences for me, brothers and sisters. I don't really deal with that. I don't deal with just a bunch of coincidences. That this is not something that I can see and just overlook. But again, they do this as a flex. Okay, they're just showing you that we are in control. All right, a lot of these people, man. It kind of reminds me of this too as well. Um, I thought about some things with Kobe Bryant, uh, in his removal and his sacrifice too as well. There's so many different things. Maybe I'll write a few of them on the screen. But first of all, the fact that he died the next day after he was passed by LeBron James, as the all-time scoring record in the NBA. You had that. LeBron James wrote Mamba for life on his shoes that night, that he passed him. This was before Kobe died. Why Mamba for life? Or was it 2 nights before? I think it was either 2 nights before or that night of, or just the night before. No, I think it was he passed him on Saturday and he died on Sunday. That's how I remember it. But either way, he had wrote, yeah, I think that's what happened. He wrote Mamba for life on his shoes. Why Mamba for life? That's normally you only say that after somebody already died. Okay. You had some of the Lakers players, like some of the garments they were wearing, how Dwight Howard was talking about him after he passed him, like he had already died, like he already knew what was going to happen. His helicopter was whatever. Again, maybe I'll be putting some of this on the screen. I'm just going off the top right now. But I know that the helicopter was in 76 something. And in 76, that's the team that LeBron was playing when he passed his record. That number in itself, 13. You have a commercial where it was 13 seconds left on the clock before he shot and made a dunk, and it was 4.1 seconds left when he got taken out his last game, when he scored exactly 60 points and he died at the age of 41. I think with a West, where a helicopter was destroyed in that commercial. It was so much predictive programming going on with Kobe too as well. And even in his 81-point game, that was his exact 666th game of his career. That shows that his life was scripted too as well. There's way too many coincidences for me to believe these things just happen by happenstance. And that's not how these things work. And speaking of basketball too as well, I also think about how Michael Jordan retired. His final retirement, at least his third and final, was in 2003. And guess who came into the league in the 2003 and 2004 year in the NBA? LeBron James. It was just like a perfect passing of the torch. I'm not sure if they're going to do that again, because it might start to get a little bit too obvious, because sometimes when they do these type of rituals, they want it to not be as obvious. Like with Charlie Kirk, I think it would have been too obvious if he died on 9/11, so they just made it 9/10, so that way we still would associate it with 9/11, but it won't be as obvious, right? That could have went into the reasoning why they decided to do 9/10 outside of the other numerological significances that day probably holds in the pagan circles. But either way, when I see these type of coincidences, man, I just can't ignore it. And I understand how these things work as far as how they worship these guys on the left-hand path. And you have to understand that too. Why? Because now you won't look at things on such a surface level. You're going to start to ask more questions, and you kind of just sit back. Because once this happened, I wasn't trying to run and make a video the day it happened and really jump to conclusions. I was trying to see how things played out. And I'm glad I did, because now this come onto my desk and I'm like, come on, man. Are you kidding me? There's way too many coincidences here. But again, that shows me that everything about Charlie Kirk, his life was scripted. Him creating creating his company, Turning Point USA, scripted aspect of his life. All right. Him getting killed on that day at that time, everything about that, where he got shot at, all scripted. Okay. And again, they're showing you that with The fact that he was that all these different things, all these similarities was going on in the same movie. And that's like when they say the Simpsons predicted something. No, the Simpsons don't predict things. They have the script and then they put it in other places just as a flex. That's one of the reasons, at least, just as a flex. One of many reasons that they do it. But Satan can't help himself, man. You know, the people that worship Satan, they cannot help themselves. They have to do these things. They have to let it out. Right? They can't hold everything in. That's why we have so many different clues that the Most High left us, is because those on the left-hand path, they're going to reveal themselves in one way or another. Okay. And one last article here, because I mentioned the Greek hero cult as well. Now let's go here. It says Trump hails Charlie Kirk as martyr to thousands at memorial service. Okay. It says U.S. President Donald Trump hailed conservative activist Charlie Kirk as a great American hero. Remember that word, hero. Okay. And also remember, when they say these words, a lot of times they're being very selective with what words that they use. Okay. And martyr, during a speech to tens of thousands of mourners. Remember in the scriptures that they weep for Tammuz. Okay, so this was a big memorial slash a worshiping of Charlie Kirk, as he's now been deemed as a god for most of the American people. Okay, believe it or not. Again, everything is spiritual. You have to understand that. But anyways, tens of thousands of mourners at a memorial service in Arizona. Trump was a headline speaker at the packed event on Sunday, which saw top officials from his administration, including Vice President J.D. Vance, praise Kirk's political legacy after he was shot dead on September 10th. Kirk's wife, Erica, delivered a tearful speech at the State Farm Stadium near Phoenix, in which she said she had forgiven her husband's alleged killer. So one thing about this person too, Erica Kirk, you know, this is how I know these things it's all part of a script too. Just think about it, you know, especially if you have some of the sisters watching this. Like, your husband just got killed in front of everybody, in front of your kids, in front of the whole world. This video is going around of him getting shot in the neck and just literally dying in front of everybody. It says here she gave a tearful speech, and I get it, but you know, within 2 weeks or so, you really gonna be able to just deliver a speech at all and say all these little poetic and political things in front of all these people? Are you really gonna be in an emotional state for that? You know, there's no telling. This person could have already known about this situation, more than likely so, because she could be under MK Ultra programming too as well. I mean, her role in the company now is now CEO. There's no telling what we're going to see from his wife, Erica, Erica Kirk. There's no telling. But would you really be able to really deliver a speech? You know, I never believe stuff like this. It's just a natural occurrence. I don't believe it. Okay. Anyways, but the U.S. president broke with her forgiveness message to say he disagreed with Charlie Kirk's view of wanting the best for his opponent. I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them, he said, adding, "I'm sorry, Erica." The president called Kirk our greatest evangelist for American liberty, who is now immortal. Y'all gonna really start to get this, man. And that's why I'm gonna do more of these type of videos. Y'all gonna be forced to understand that they be doing these things for a reason, to play part of the narrative. All right, and everything is really to a script too, by the way. Everything, the Most High has all of our lives scripted too as well. We just don't know what the script is until it plays out. But everybody's life is on a script to a certain degree, by the way. But some more than others, because somebody like Charlie Kirk, he had his life written out for him before he was even born. And again, why would that be the case? So that they could play out this mass ritual that they played out in front of the people to add more fuel to the fire of the different ideologies and the different energies that they want to push on the people. One, quote unquote, gun violence, or removing the guns from the people. Two, added on to the race war, because that's been one of the main talking points of everyone, is white versus black all over again. And they love that angle because it creates the most energy than anything else that you would see. Like my last video, or one of my last videos that I posted, all you got to do is put something in the title about white versus black, or black man this or that, and YouTube just starts to push it. And I wonder why. It's because they know that energy, and it goes back to antiquity. This energy does. It's Jacob versus Esau. Okay. What we call white versus black. And that's why they named us to be polar opposites. This is all part of what they truly understand about who we are and who they are. Black and white, those are polar opposites, right? Just like Jacob and Esau were twins. But anyways, I'm going off on a tangent here. The fact that he said he's immortal, they're trying to tell you something, okay? Who's immortal? Gods are immortal, okay, and to be worshipped. Anyways, adding, he's a martyr now for American freedom. I know a lot of y'all, this pisses you off. You're seeing that he's now considered a martyr. You like, a martyr for what? He wasn't even in office, and so on and so forth. I get it. But to them, this is how they're marketing him now. It's not about who somebody was in a situation like this, is how they're marketed. Because they did the same thing with like Muhammad Ali. He stood for certain things while he was alive, but then now, they try to make him to be like this super globalist figure and all of that. Or like Martin Luther King, right? Martin Luther King Jr., not just explicitly right before he died, but, I can't remember how close it was to his death, but he said that integration could possibly be inviting his people into a burning house. But yet he's not remembered by that. He's remembered by integration and, the speech. One day, black kid and white kid do this and that, whatever he said on that little speech that wasn't, he didn't even write. I have a dream speech. That's what he's remembered by. But he had different ideals before he died. And that's how he's going to be remembered. It's going to be all this little American freedom and this and that and stuff that, he may or may not have even stood up for. Right. They can market you any way they want to after you gone, because you can't speak for yourself no more. So they're going to be just adding stuff on. And that's just how it works. So, you can be mad about it, but it don't really matter because he's not somebody for us to really care about anyways. So anyways, it says his reflections on hate were a contrast to the words spoken by Miss KIRK earlier, who delivered perhaps the most powerful moment of the service. And that's what she said. She forgave the alleged killer. Just one last part I wanted to go to. Again, like I said, on the first picture like this is them showing you indirectly that this is worship for Charlie Kirk. This is not worship to the Most High. Okay, this is worship to Charlie Kirk. That's why they have their hands up in unison, all for worshiping Charlie Kirk. Okay, that's why it says here tens of thousands gathered inside the stadium for the memorial to Kirk. This worship is to Kirk. All right, he's been made as a god now. All right, just like the other people that have died tragically, aka been sacrificed. All right. So it was actually this article I wanted to go back to really quickly. It says here, Charlie passionately wanted to reach and save the lost boys of the West. Young men who feel like they have no direction, no purpose, no faith, and no reason to live, Kirk's wife Erica said. That was very interesting to me that she used those words, the lost boys. Okay, now I'm gonna show you why. Let's kind of end with this. A few things I wanted to show you real quick. Then we'll head on up out of here, man. You see here, it says Greek hero cult. Now, you must understand that the society that we live in is fashioned around the ancient Greek and Roman societies, even more of Rome. So this is modern day Rome, but we know that a lot of the that's why they had a period called the Greco-Roman. We know that a lot of their ideologies kind of blended together. All right, but either way, you have this Greek hero cult. It says hero cults were one of the most distinctive features of ancient Greek religion. In Homeric Greek, hero. Remember, Trump said that he was a hero? It says hero refers to the mortal offspring of a human and a god. By the historical period, the word came to mean specifically a dead man that's what? Venerated and propitiated at his tomb, that memorial service, right? Or a designated shrine because his fame during life or his unusual manner of death gave him power to support and protect the living. That's why he's being made to be a martyr, y'all. It's because he's now a part of what was called in the ancient world the Greek hero cult. He now has a cult. You understand? But this was by design. This is not anything new. Nothing is new under the sun. Okay? That's why Trump Trump understands this. That's why he called him a hero. Okay, the Greek hero cult, I'm going to read it one more time, refers to the mortal offspring of a human and a god. And that's why I've been saying that he is being worshiped as a god now. Okay, whether you like it or not, doesn't matter. Me, I don't care. All right, it's just another idol to be added on to the millions of idols that already exist. All right. But anyways, by the historical period, the word came to mean specifically a dead man venerated or worshiped and propitiated at his tomb or a designated shrine. What they had over there in Arizona, that was a designated shrine. That was his tomb. That was a memorial service. Remember, J.D. Vance said that the killer thought that this would be a funeral, but this was a celebration service. However, his words or what he said, that was the gist of it, though. Renowned because his fame during life or his unusual manner of death. That was an unusual manner of death, to be killed in front of all those people while he was speaking to college students. That was an unusual manner of death. Gave him power to support and protect the living. A hero was more than human, but less than a god. And various kinds of minor supernatural figures came to be assimilated to the class of heroes. The distinction between a hero and a god was less than certain, because in the case of Heracles or Hercules, the most prominent but atypical hero. So this is why they sacrifice people early, so that they can develop these type of cults like Charlie Kirk now has. Like they say, we're all Charlie Kirk. You seen that? We all are Charlie Kirk. They're creating that cult like energy. And that's why they do these things. This is a ritual that goes back into the ancient world. You understand? So this is nothing nothing new or nothing taboo, because people hear things like sacrifice and stuff like that, and they, especially a lot of brothers that's in the knowledge, they hear that and they like, what are you talking about, and what is this and that, and you just don't understand. Again, this is all part of the worship that these people adhere to on a left-hand path. Okay, you understand that? If that don't spell it out to you, I don't know what will. And the last thing, I'll go to that really quickly too. So it says here, Lost Boys, Peter Pan. The Lost Boys are characters from J.M. Barrie's 1904 play Peter Pan, or the Boy Who Couldn't Grow Up. So if you didn't know, Peter Pan is essentially a depiction of the Greek god known as Pan. Okay. So if you don't know who Pan is, Let me just put him on the screen too as well. It says Pan God. In ancient Greek religion and mythology, Pan is a god of the wild, shepherds and flocks, rustic music, and impromptus, and companion of the nymphs. He has hindquarters, legs, and horns of a goat in the same manner as a fawn or satyr. So this is one of the many depictions of Pan. Now, it also says he's often affiliated with sex. Because of this, Pan is connected to fertility and the season of spring. Well, I did see Charlie Kirk speak a lot about not watching porn and things like that. He seemed to really make that a point of, a point of a lot of things that he taught younger men, I guess. But either way, there's kind of a connection there to me. But either way, what I'm saying here is that Pan, this god that's been worshipped for thousands of years, is connected directly to Peter Pan, which we know of Peter Pan. But in Peter Pan and also in the mythos of Pan, you had what's called the Lost Boys. And just the fact that she said the Lost Boys is very interesting to me because, again, look, Pan is or was a Greek god. And I just showed you that he is now in the Greek hero cult. So I don't know. I thought that was very interesting that she used the Lost Boys because that's just not something normal to say, the Lost Boys. Maybe men that are lost. I wouldn't have paid that any attention to men that are lost, but the Lost Boys, that was a direct quote from his wife, Erica Kirk. I mean, that was very interesting to me. Look how perverted this figure is. That's having sex with goats. This Pan figure is. But Pan is a god that, again, is heavily worshipped in this society. There's many different parallels you can make to the god Pan that I've done other videos on, and I'll put one of those in the description. I think it was the goat worship agenda is where I talk about that. And I think I talk about Peter Pan on that as well. And that's where Peter Pan came from. But either way, I thought that was interesting too. There's something I noticed here at the last minute. But either way, his life was scripted. He was sacrificed. Don't pay attention to the low level stuff like racism. Most people, they're not going to be able to see this or understand what's happening. But there's much larger things at play. They have big things planned for this society. This is only part of it. If this racism angle got you all out of sorts, like we need brothers being stronger than that. I'm talking to the brothers specifically. We need brothers stronger than that. All right, because once Jacob's trouble hits, it's going to be a lot deeper than just somebody being racist. You know what I mean? Like this is something light, something that you analyze, you see, and you try to figure out what's really going on from the standpoint of the larger picture on the spiritual side, not just on the surface level. Just talking about quote unquote racism is too surface level because it's not about race. It's about the elect versus the wicked, or the elect versus everybody else. That's the real battle here. Okay. And being able to distinguish what's righteous from what's wicked. And race, it just doesn't matter because, again, the people that really are the mover and shakers, the so-called elite, are the powers to be. They don't care nothing about no race by itself, within itself. Yeah, that's a part of it, but it's what's more important to them is the spiritual aspect of everything. So that's pretty much it. Lord willing, this was edifying. Until the next time I bid everyone a mighty shalom.